Mr. Baz Rathbone. Oh my God.
That could be the worst,
I
yeah.
know, yeah. Mr. Baz. I can't do it. Mr. Baz Rathbone, how are we doing?
Oh, really good. Thanks for inviting me back.
Thanks for
I'm
joining
very
us once
excited.
again.
I told the Salford lads I was coming on, and they'd all heard of the show.
Oh, excellent news.
Yeah.
Perfect, great start.
And were very complimentary of it too.
We weren't filming them the last time. We should have told you.
Oh gosh.
You could have brought us a change of clothes.
Well,
That's what I
actually,
was getting at.
Funnily enough, I had a grey beard. I'm not even joking. I shaved it off this morning because my wife said, no, I'll do the beard. You don't need one. So I shaved it off, So there you go.
Well, the new book's out.
Yeah, it's really exciting. When people say it's not about the money, it means it is about the money, don't they? Like, so,
Is it not about the money, though?
no, so how can I phrase that? But I wanted that altruisticness. I wanted people to say it was good, and I spent a lot of time writing it and getting it printed and trying to get the quality really high, so people wouldn't say that's a CRAP version of the first book. I didn't want that, and I'm really pleased and proud. And somebody asked me the other day, which one do you prefer? And I said, actually, the second one, because people are saying, to my face, that it's as good, stroke better than the first book. And I really, really wanted that. It meant the world to me, that I hadn't kind of jumped on the bandwagon and then bought a second one out that weren't very good, actually. It's only for sale on the website and that, and it's really good and it's really exciting. So when I get home now and I switch on my giant iPad, the sales come flooding through and, the pound signs are spinning around. And
I thought it was about the money, Baz.
it's not about the money. It's not about the money.
New challenge.
It's not
I've just
about
got
the money.
I've
It's
just
not
got a
about the money.
bollocking for giving you it to read, haven't I?
Well, I said
that
to you,
slip.
it's nice, but it's not a library book, is it, Chris? You know what I mean? If you want a library book, go to the library, And
Oh, by the way,
yeah.
can you pass that on to me when you're done?
yeah. And at the risk of repeating myself, it's not about the money, but buy your own bloody copy. But the point is, guys, I really wanted people to say it was as good as the first book, and people are saying that, and that means the world. And it's not about the money.
The first book's obviously about your career and the anxieties and everything that came with it. And I first met you, was it 10 years ago?
But gosh, I just left Everton, hadn't I?
And you said even back then that you felt like you were done. The full-time stuff was probably getting too much, the pressure and all that. How was it leaving Everton? I don't think we've ever spoke about
Mate,
it.
it was the most incredible day of my life, that final day. And I was just there. We beat Portsmouth. That's how long ago it was. Beat Portsmouth. A couple of days later at the training ground. And David just said to me, Baz, have you got a minute? And I went into his office and he said, Baz, it's time for a change. And I said, oh, don't go, Dave. You're doing a good job. And he went, no. He went, a change in the medical team. I said, you've never liked Matt. He went, Baz, it's not Matt. I said, Danny. He went, it's not Danny. I said, right, whoa. I said, right, in the medical team, not Matt, not Danny. I said, no. I said, you'll have to give me a clue. He goes, Baz, he's in the room now and it's not me. I'm looking under the table, behind the curtains, and then the penny dropped. You're out. That's it. And you tumble down the stairs in a state of shock.
But was it? You were contemplating leaving anyway, so was it a relief?
Yes, because, I mean, that actually didn't really happen like that. I've kind of taken that, I think it's called poetic license. I've taken that over the last 10 years and made that story my own. I'm David's biggest fan. He's a fantastic manager. I do say in the book, please give the guy a chance. He'll show you how good he is. I think I've been proved right. Sometimes it's just time for the change. I've been there 15 years, 7 days a week. I decided it was time. But you know what? And I don't know if I ever would have knocked on that door. I went to knock on the door and Dave was sat there, then I pulled away and went back to my office. I thought, what are you doing? Who gives up a job like this, 6-figure wages? Who does that? You've got young kids. What are they going to say to Dad when they're going away in a bloody caravan instead of a 5-star hotel? It's time for universities, driving lessons. So I got back in my office, I was spooked like then I thought, no, I'm burned out. It's time to go down the corridor again. Went to knock on the door, couldn't do it, went and sat down. I thought, what are you doing? What are you doing? Then Dave knocked on my door, got me in and said, look, I think we've come to the end of it.
So does that mean that you got a settlement to leave?
Yeah, I mean, it's not about the money. You know it's not about the money. It wasn't about that. It was professional pride. But it was really funny because the different things that go through your head. I mean, we stayed really, really good friends, and we meet up for coffee and stuff, and he would pay, and I'd say, well, you'll have to, 'cause I've got no money, I got sacked. Oh, well, oh, you were there. But it was... I use the word pejoratively, sack. It makes a nice story. And I guess I was sacked. Could I have stayed on? No. So I guess I was. But it was more than that. It was, 15 amazing years with an amazing guy who gave me everything. And it was just time to move on and that light.
So do you know when you've had coffees since, have you ever actually said to him, why, Dave?
No, because... I wasn't performing very well. I'd done I'd done 7 days a week for 18 years. The last year we had a tsunami of injuries, and whether you like it or not, it affects you. Because I go in every morning and I say to the coaches, no, worse than we thought, no chance, 3 months, 6 months, he's not going to be available. And they're not blaming me. And I can assure you, I've never injured a player as a physio, Actually, I did last year when I was at Everton. I was crossing some balls for the keepers and I whipped one in. It had dip and swerve. The young goalie come out. It was too much for him. And he come out the menu stick in the ground. He fell into that and sprained his ankle really bad. But I carried him off. I caused the injury. But
carried him off and rehabbed him.
Yeah. So I have actually injured a player. But in terms of that going up every morning with all that bad news, it does affect you personally. And those guys were my friends, David, and it was Roundy there, and Jimmy and Taffy and Chris Woods and that. They are and were my friends. And they weren't really blaming me, obviously, but you do see that disappointment. And, they're not expecting you to work miracles, but you're the only one they can kind of look at. And I'm telling you, I spoke to lots of physios, and after a while, that grinds you down. And I think I just come to the stage where, I say every day of the week, more or less for 18 years, you just need a break. That's all.
Because there was a lot of stuff, I think, when you just left about false rumours. Was it the Phil Neville? With the mismanagement of his injury?
Yeah, that's what it said, but that wasn't actually true. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story. He had a complicated injury. It wasn't easy to manage. It was managed correctly and that, He wrote the foreword of the first book, so he couldn't have had any hard feelings, But it was just a parting of the ways and that. And I do say that after the 100th word, sacked. I do start to soften it and call it a parting of the ways, So me and Dave remained good friends the day after, and to this day, and we're really good friends. And I'm his biggest fan. I think he's a great fella. I think he's a magical manager. And now he's been given time. He's showing how good he really is.
Absolutely. Do you think if he'd have been given time at Man Utd?
100% do. Yeah. He builds teams and he's careful and he looks after the club's money and he builds teams slowly but surely. And he would have been absolutely ideal for the job.
Surprised he hasn't made back on the phone. Get you down there?
No, that ship sailed. It was funny because I was at Man Utd when Dave was there as well, and I was with the 21s as a kind of mentor to that squad, not a physio. And it was really strange for me to look across to the first team and see Dave talking with other physios about stuff. And it was really weird because did I want to be there or not? Yes and no. And I even couldn't really understand it and explain it. It was just odd, I guess,
When you left Everton, then did you make a conscious decision to step away from all that and look at something different, like you went into the psychology of young players?
Yeah, I did, but somebody said a great thing about football the other day. When you're in it, you want out, and when you're out of it, you want in. And the more I've thought about it, sitting here now, I've just been out with Salford today, playing and joining in training and stuff, and working with the lads and that, and thinking, oh, God, how much longer? But as I say, every time I've came out, I've wanted in. But when you're in, you kind of want out, it is that sort of a contradiction in terms. I guess it mirrors the nature of the game. The highs are high and the lows are low. And it's that kind of job anyway. You've all played and stuff and yourself, you get man of the match. Chris scored a great goal. You're up there, get dragged after 60 minutes, and you feel terrible, So it kind of mirrors the way that football is for us all, I suppose.
Did you miss the pressure then? When you went into a job that you didn't really... I think I know you said you could have been there.
Yeah, but this is the weirdest thing, right? So I came out of football and the pressure's gone. So by the time I tumbled down the stairs, literally, and got in my car and my head was spinning that, you know what? On the way home, I'm starting to feel pretty damn good. Because when I say on the thing, I went in the next day to clear my desk, and one of the players came up and he'd had surgery. And he went, Baz, I think my wounds had infected. And as he rolled his trouser leg up, if they'd done it the day before, I'm telling you, my shirt would have been stuck to my back and the sweat would have been pouring before he got to the wound, but it didn't matter anymore. And as he rolled to it, I said, well, it's not my problem anymore now. It wasn't infected, and of course we'd have sorted him out but that was a great example of that pressure's gone. But the kind of frightening thing about it, and I guess it's like a drug, isn't it? After a while, you start missing that pressure. So I started doing what's the worst thing you could ever do? Sportsman's dinners. I'll do some sportsman's dinners, because that's got to be the hardest. And so the trouble with sportsman's dinners, it's a trap that surrounds you from behind. So somebody approaches you and says, will you do a sportsman's dinner next 9 months from now? And you say, yeah, because that date next July is never coming. And that money represents nothing more than some easy money for a date that's never coming. But that's the trap, you see, because you say yes, and then they print the tickets, you're now trapped. You're closed in. And I'll tell you what, you might think 9 months go slowly. Maybe if you were pregnant, you probably would. But that 9, 8, 7, 6 on, before you know it, it's the week building up. And now you're in trouble. You're doing that, and people are there. And I got there that night. It was to do in Preston, and I'm telling you now, I was 10 times worse than any time I've ever played in my life. And the problem is, you get there at 6, and then you experience 4 hours of sheer hell before you go on. And I mean, you can't eat. You rearrange the food skillfully so you don't look too nervous and that. And you're waiting. There's a strange phenomenon, though, because like the guy who's getting hanged, after a while, you just want it over and done with. You know what I mean? So I've been wanting the clock to stop for 9 months, especially the last 3 or 4 days. But now I think, do it, 8 o'clock, please be 10 o'clock, please be 10 o'clock. And I'm waiting for it. And then even to this day, if somebody taps a glass with a spoon, my legs go to jelly. You're waiting for that. You've all been there, dicky bow people, getting drunk, having a great time. You better be good, Baz. We'll boo if you're not. You think, oh, Jesus Christ. How am I here? And then all of a sudden, 10 o'clock, the witching hour, tap, tap, tap. Right, good evening, gentlemen. The guy gets, good evening, gentlemen. We're going to start with the main attraction now. One of the finest after dinner speaks in the country. I thought, right, I've done none. Why are you saying I'm one of the finest afternoon speakers in the country when I've done none? That's additional pressure. I don't need that pressure. I don't need the pressure. So then he goes, tink, tink, tink. Okay, we're going to get Baz up now, blah, 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 blah. But first, get yourself a drink from the bar. I was halfway up. Oh, sit back down again. Oh, Jesus Christ, right, So 10 minutes later, you're churning now. You're very close to, I guess, passing out with pressure. 10 minutes later, ting, 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 ting. Everybody stops, looks, turns towards you expectantly. The bloke goes, right, big moment now. So Bazzy's going to come on now. So if you want a final cigarette. Chris, I was up again. I'm halfway up. I'm back down again, So I think, oh, God, I never did you any harm. Why are you killing me? 10 minutes, 600 seconds later, tap, 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 tap on the spoon. Right, finally, we're going to get the after dinner speaker on now. So we'll do the raffle first. They're ringing me out. They're absolutely ringing me out, And then finally I got up and it went, I've got to say, it went amazingly well. It was fantastic. It was the happiest moment of my life. And I got a standing ovation at the end and that. And it was really interesting about comedy, really interesting because there was a guy called, what's that comedian name who was very big in this, the Irish guy who had...
Jimmy Cricket?
Yes, he had left on his right, right on his left, in a bowler hat on. Come here, and there's more. He came on after me. And whether it was relief in me, and I was just laughing hysterically, everyone was laughing at his jokes. So he comes on and he goes, come here, there's more. He goes, my dad back home, he changed every pane of glass in our house before he realised he had a crack in his glasses. So people are crying at that. They're crying at that. My ma, she knitted me 3 socks because I wrote and said I'd grown an extra foot. People are crying. He goes, my new sat nav's amazing. I drove past the zoo, it said bear left. People are crying at these jokes and that. But the important point afterwards, he comes to me because it went really well, that you did well, and it went really well, I said, oh, you were amazing. He goes, yeah, but he said there's a golden hour. He said, and the golden hour is it's to do with drink. And you know yourself when you're out for a drink, first couple of pints are slow, but between pint 4 and 8, you're having the best time of your life. 8 to 12, you're half dead, aren't you, with your shots? So this golden hour, we went on the golden hour. And he said to me, I've done that act either too early or too late, and no one's laughed. So it was really interesting insight into comedy, like, you know. So I started doing that. And you know what? When I thought about it afterwards, I thought, right, why are you doing this? Because if you want that unflappable, no notes, speaking from memory, calm, relaxed anecdotes, never mess up. Because when you do a sportsman's dinner, there's 2 overwhelming fears. Fear number 1 is your stuff's rubbish. But a slightly bigger fear is that you'll dry, I think it's called, and freeze on the night. And people have paid 50 quid to hear you. It's not your best man's speech at your brother's wedding. This is professional speaking. And if you make a mess of it, they're going to let you know. And they're going to let your friends know as well. That everybody on Twitter, by the way, this guy's hopeless. 50 quid, it was a joke and that, like, you know. So, but as I say, when I assessed it afterwards, I thought, why have you done that? You've had all that pressure, you've come out of it, and you've gone back into that. And, you know, I kind of concluded it was that addiction to that pressure. You've had it for so long, every Friday night lying awake at night and driving into the ground on a Saturday night with your hands sweaty on the steering wheel. Now you've got to replace it with a kind of more extreme version. So that's where we were.
Have you got a newfound respect for me now, lads?
What was that?
After dinner
I could
speaking?
never do it. I could never do the after dinner.
It's
No
really
chance.
difficult.
I've got one tomorrow, one Friday.
Well, good luck to you. no.
And if anyone wants to book me, by the way, please do get in touch.
The only thing I'll say is I did 4, and by the 4th, I was eating the odd piece of carrot. You know, I was getting a bit of carrot over.
Start eating again.
Yeah. So I went from 100% fear to about 97% on the 4th one. And the sad thing was, I packed it because I went back into club football, like, you know, and in a way, I'd done the hard bit. I'd done the hours and hours of rehearsing it so it looks unrehearsed, you know. So I should have really carried on. But it went really well. In fact, I was approached by an agent and he said he'd get me work on cable TV, digging out the trenches.
So, I mean, obviously, in that period, that sabbatical, should we call it, away from football?
Post-sacking.
You've written the new book. You've done a bit of after dinner. I mean, what was the period that you were at?
I probably had 6 months off when I wrote the book. That was a great experience, I must say, putting together. And then it was really interesting because only 1% of books that are written become published books. So 99% are rejected. And a lot of people, to save me the pain of rejection, they were saying, yeah, but Baz, you know, not many people and all that kind of stuff. And that was like the narrative and that. But I really believed in the book and I thought it would do well. And what I did, I wrote it and I had it made into 2 like little paperback copies that were books with page numbers on, but they were rudimentary, but it was a printed book. And I thought, I'm ready to go. But people were saying, yeah, but they'll put them on the shelf, they don't read, and 1% and all that. People trying to save me from the disappointment of a reaction. And I went into the Trafford Centre and I looked at the top. Robbie Savage's book was there, Mainstream, Edinburgh. So a guy called Bill Campbell emailed him. I said, hi, my name's Mick Rathbone. I've written a book about essentially me, but about confidence, blah, blah, blah. You know, then I eeny, meeny, miny, mo, Vision SP in Kingston upon Tyne, London. They're getting the next copy. So I emailed him as well. And people saying, oh, they'll never get back to you, you have to wait. Oh, I'm not interested, 100 books every day and that. They got back the next day. And I was in London doing a talk on groin injuries. And the guy from London, he arranged to meet me and we met in Trafalgar Square. It was really kind of Jean Leclerc carré, like, you know, I had a kind of copy of the Daily Times. He had a red rose and all that. We met, went for the coffee and that. And I gave him the book and he went across Trafalgar Square. The only slightly worrying thing, he had the book on his head to keep the pigeon shit off, which I'm thinking, that's not a good sign. That is not a good sign. Yeah. And then the guy from Edinburgh said, look, that sounds great. And I sent the other copy up there. And then people were saying, oh, it's gone well, but don't get your hopes up, don't get your hopes up and that. But I really believed in the book because it had that extra thread of confidence in that. So I was really confident in that. I'm not stupid enough to write a book that's going to be panned by the critics and that, like, you know. And then the next day, I saw that number, Jim Druitt, Vision SP, come up, like, you know, my heart was racing and that, like, you know, a bit like when the team sheet went up back in the 70s, like, you know, and your name's on it, unfortunately. So he said, Baz, and I'll never forget the words, he goes, Baz, this is the best book I've read on sports football. He said, we want that book. And I had almost tears in my eyes and that, like, you know. And he said, can you come down to London tomorrow and we can discuss the logistics of it and that? And I said, yeah. And then Bill Campbell from Edinburgh, he phoned like half an hour later. He goes, Baz, he goes, that's the first book for years I've read from start to finish without putting down. And I said, well, it is impregnated with super glue. Self-deprecating, you see. And he said to me, can you come up to Edinburgh and we can discuss the logistics? You know, when can you come? I said, well, I'm busy tomorrow. I'm in London at the other publishers, like, you know. And I went to both publishers, and it was I can't explain how marvellous the experience is that you would write a book and somebody will want to publish it, and that one day your book will be in Waterstones. It's the most amazing experience you can have. I don't know if it's about validation, you know, is it ego? I don't know.
As well as your self-doubt as well that you've had probably all your life.
I guess. And then he got to the final 3 for the British Football Book of the Year, and I was at the Savoy with my dicky bow on, and I was rehearsing my speech, and I was going to say, it's ironic that all the self-doubt, and it's only by writing about the self-doubt, ironically, I've come to the point where I can be accepted and win something. And I had my way, I thought, I'll go back round that table, through there. That's quite tight. Squeeze through there. Excuse me. Sorry. Proud but modest. Anyway, I never won. Never won. Story of my life. But as I say, it's a marvellous experience, you know. So I'm so thankful for enjoying that experience.
What, during this time though, are you wanting to get back into football? And are you waiting for the phone to go? Are you actively putting your name out there?
Well, it's interesting because you think, when I left Everton, you think by the time you get home there's 50 phone calls. But there's no phone calls because there's only jobs when there's vacancies. So whilst a club might like you to be there, if they've got their medical staff, you can't go there. But by the same degree, things change so quickly. And that phenomenon of that like life-changing phone call. So I've retired for the last 5 years and give a leaving speech. So 5 years ago, England won the Euros in Malta. I gave a really nice speech to all the players and that. I got champagne, shirt, card. Then the year after, I stayed another year because I thought, well, if you keep leaving, you get like stuff and that, like, you know. So I've done another year, left again. Shirt and card. I thought, I'll let you off with the champagne, but I didn't get the champagne the second time. Stayed another year for stuff. Third time, was coming back from England games in northern Brittany, left, gave the speech, which I'm very good at by now. Just got a Moonpig card. So the speech is getting, but the Preds are going out. Anyway, then I went to Forest, and I could only stay a year there. And I left at the end and they got me some prints. So I was doing the speech, but I saw they bought me a really expensive Paul Smith leather bag. So I kind of hurried the speech because you want to Google the value of the bag, don't you? So,
not about the money.
Anyway, thanks very much. It's been great. Google, Paul Smith bag, Jesus Christ, 899 quid, buzzing, you know, and a watch, by the way. And then I moved to Everton then and left and got like a £600 Hugo Boss voucher and a watch as well. You know, so I'm kind of moving on now, like, you know, and getting like loads of different stuff. But in terms
like a magpie.
Like a magpie, yeah. But in terms of that life-changing stuff, so I left all them clubs and I looked at my wife and I said, it's our time now. So I left Wigan. I left Wigan and we was on the beach with my wife and I'm looking at it and I think, you know what, I've been away so many times and I'm 59 years of age. I've had a good innings now and it's time for us to do those things, to go on those holidays, to walk the dog and just to be together and grow old gracefully together, like, you know. So I'm sat on the beach in Marbella thinking, you know, it's mine and Julie's time now. Phone's ringing. Dave Weir. Baz, it's Dave Weir. Will you come to Nottingham Forest as head physio? On my way. She can wait. She can wait.
On a serious note, though, did she have to take some adjustment to you being in the house all the time?
Not really, because I was kind of doing other things. I went into Preston for a little bit as well soon after that, and I started doing the England work, which actually meant I was away a lot because it's all like overseas camps orientated. So not so, but we're best friends. We got on fantastically well anyway, like, you know. But she knows that I do need like to work and that, like, you know. In fact, she was trying to get me a job in Brisbane the other day, which I thought was amazing. Isn't that supportive?
Brisbane, Australia?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, is there a place near Blackburn called Brisbane?
No. Isn't that supportive? But, you know, so there you go. But no, she understands it, and I do love to work, and you need to work. And do you know what? At the end of the day, I'm at Salford now. I keep calling it Bradford. I'm at Salford now. I love it. And people say, oh, what are you saying? What, you're only for 2 weeks at first. But you know, when people you really like ask you to stay, and when the players ask you to stay, that is a very, very powerful thing. And it's very hard to turn down. So I said I would stay. You know, it's as simple as that. And, you know, we all want to be wanted. And I say it's very hard to turn that down. So
you mentioned the Preston when you came back and helped Jacko, who was head physio at the time.
Yeah.
You used to take it was the warm-ups and with the rehab, a lot of the rehab, and you were fitter than every single one of us.
Well,
did that continue at Man U, England?
Yeah. I've been outside the Times a couple of times at Salford, you know, to be perfectly honest. But you know what I started doing? When I got to 50, I decided I would run round the training pitch in 50 seconds. And then every year, so a couple of days ago, actually, on my 63rd birthday, I ran round the training pitch at Salford in 61 seconds, actually. A bit smaller than Finch Farm's full-size Goodison pitch. I've done it last year and the year before. So I've always managed to. What will happen when I don't do it? I don't know. In a funny kind of way, that extra second is getting easier every year. So I do like to keep strong. I do like to keep myself fit. And I say in the book, there's probably a darker side to that. And I say in the book, why do I have to be up at the front in the running group? Can't you do the job from the side? Can't you do the job while jogging by the players? Yes, you can. But the kind of sad answer to that is, while I can run at the front and do the sprints and feeding the ball and the 1-2s and the shots with the players, the fact that I can't turn on a laptop doesn't really matter. The fact I don't know what a paradigm is or pre-activation is, I thought that was in you. You didn't last long at sex, to be perfectly honest. You know? But I don't know what that stuff means. I don't know the new stuff. But at the moment, it doesn't matter because I'm at the front running with the players out in the rain, knocking the balls, doing the 1-2s, doing the shuttles. So in a kind of funny way, it kind of shields you from the modernity of stuff. And that's sort of the thread of the second book, isn't it? Gradually growing older. And you know, like, when I started getting to Birmingham's team when I was 17, it always said, and the 19-year-old fullback. He said, drive me mad. He said, well, what's the big deal? Well, to get in the team at 19 is good in the top division, but at 17, it's bloody fantastic. Yeah. And all my life, I had that, and that kind of spurred the second book. I remember once I was playing for Blackburn in an FA Cup game, 5th round at Goodison of all places. And apparently it said on the radio, Trevor Stephen and Gary Stevens working the ball down the right, taking advantage of the ageing legs of the veteran Rathbone, 24. I was 24, I was, like, you know. So I've always had people thinking you're older. And that, so I had an operation on my knee, and I was like 52. And it was a big operation. And I thought, right, I'm going to have to join a gym. So I joined the gym in Witton Park in Blackburn. And I went in, and there were a couple of nurses there. There must have been some health kit going on, Blackburn and Darwin Council. And I went in, morning ladies, and they went, oh, excuse me, sir, are you heart attack or angina? Heart attack? I said, I'm 10K in 36 minutes, actually. And then, on the way out, 3 months later, I got friendly with some lovely old guys who might have been younger than me. On the way out, like, Baz, have you got a minute? I've been watching you on the run treadmill and that, like, you know, would you like to join our walking football team? So, oh, Jesus Christ, like, you know. And I always had this thing about people looking older. And then I tell that story about when I was at Man Utd. I looked after the lads on loan, and we had a connection with the team in Antwerp, Royal Antwerp. I thought I'd go over and watch our two lads play on a Friday night. I went over, Man United suit and all that, like, you know. I get to the game, they won 5-0. And Belgian people like a beer, don't they? So I go in the lounge after, and people are pissed, basically. That's great, they won 5-0, they're pissed. I go in like, and you know when you're a little bit famous, not really, but a little bit, you are aware of a kind of nudge going on, like, you know, and I thought, oh, it's happening here, like, you know. As my book made it, I'll never forget it. I had my reading glasses on as well, and I'm in there, like, you know, I've got my Man United suit, reading glasses on, and eventually, after the nudging, a fan comes over, unscrunches the team sheet, and he goes, will you sign, please? And I said, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, best wishes. And I thought, bossing, like, you know. And he goes, thank you, Sir Bobby. No. 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 No.
What's the age difference as well?
Yeah, well, I was 54, you know, a lovely fella, great player, great human being.
But he's 80.
He was 74 at the time. I Googled it like, you know, 74, like, you know. But it's really funny because I think I'm young and I think I look young, right? One day when I was at Forest, we played Millwall away. About 3 years ago, we played Millwall away and my knee was really bad and swollen. So I was on the top floor. We went down to the team meeting. I don't normally run down the stairs and try and beat my personal best on stairs in hotels, like, you know. But my knee was really bad. I thought I'd get in the lift. Anyway, the lift opened and there's a little old fella in there, like, you know. And I nodded, he nodded. I'm smart, like, you know. And he had like a Forest tracksuit. I thought, it must be like one of the directors and that, like, you know. And that waving, he waving that. Then I realised there's nobody in the lift. It's mirrored. That hunched up gremlin's me. That old guy's me. And do you know what? Do you know what, Chris? I saw myself for the first time as others see me, and it was quite a shock. Small, frail, loose neck, old, hunched, grey. Yeah, I'll tell you what, it was a massive shock, honestly, a massive shock.
Did you correct him that you weren't?
No.
You take it, don't you?
I thought I'll take the glory and probably have a hair transplant. So,
did you get out on the pitch at United? Did you test yourself against the first team?
Well, when you go into a new club, you want to make a good effect, don't you? And I went into this kind of poorly. I didn't enjoy it, Man United. I say it in the book. It's a great club. People were great to me. But it was kind of, you know, when I was at Everton, you're the head of the medical. You were on the pitch. You're defined. That's your role. It's invaluable. The meeting can't start without Baz. He runs on the pitch. We get that. And now we're going to these kind of less well-defined roles. And I had one of these roles at Manchester United. And the club's great. The people were amazing to me in that. But I weren't really feeling that, like, you know. So I went in on my first day, and Warren Joyce was there, who's a good mate of mine. He goes, come on, Baz, out on the pitch, get changed, and that, like, you know. So I got onto the training pitch with the 21s, it was, and there's some great players like Michael Keane and Sam Johnson and Jan Husey and Jesse Lingard, some really, really top players who were like 20 in them days. And we start with the box, and I'm on the outside of the box, like, you know, and I'm thinking, oh, my heart's pounding, like, you know, in case I give the ball away, this frail old guy, like, you know. Anyway, the ball goes to Jesse Lingard. He shovels a bad pass to me, like, you know. Yeah. And they close in on me, the two in the middle. Anyway, back through Makeda's legs and across the box, like, you know. And we had to stop. Everyone was laughing so much. We had to stop, like, you know. Anyway, then we go over to the next pitch to finish off with some hard running. And we do, like, it's called the width pitch, the width run. And there's Nicky Button and Joyce. And this is a race between two players. Right, I want to see a winner, like, you know, I think, well, this would be interesting to see the levels of these lads compared to Everton's senior players. So I'm standing there like the pair off, like, you know, and the run is from the sideline, first 18 and back, first 6 and back, far 6 and back, far 18, far line and back, gut buster, eyeballs out, I want winners, Butty's saying, I want winners. I'm thinking, interesting. Be interested. Anyway, next news, Shinny Kagawa comes across, like, you know, Warren, can I've been out for 3 weeks, can I do extra? He went, yeah, you have to run against Baz. And everyone was laughing their heads off, like, you know what I mean? You know, so anyway, we're last to go, we're the last race, the last feature of the day. And they do all the runs and that eyeballs out, like, you know. Anyway, we kind of bow, like, you know, because obviously Japanese bow. And then off we go. I felt great, you know, like when you're running in a vacuum. And it seemed I waited all my life for this day. Anyway, we're there and back, second one and back, third and back. I feel like, you know, when you can lift the car off your child, it felt like that. You know what I mean? Lift the car off the kid, pull the kid out, like, you know. I felt fantastic. And I had him, and I knew it, and I knew I had him. I can hear him breathing heavy now. But I'm running through this kind of vacuum state. And now the lads are shouting for Baz. Everyone's laughing, go on, Baz. We hit the final line. All I've got to do now is get back to glory. And I changed gear, and I was like 15. I used to be a really good runner. I was at school, like, you know, one of the Birmingham schools, 800 metres, and that, like, you know. And it was those days again. And I just left him and run home. And
left him for dead?
Yeah, for dead, yeah. And to be fair, everyone laughed and he was laughing as well, like, you know. And,
he must have thought, fucking hell, I've had a good 3 weeks off.
But you know what?
I might need to do extra tomorrow as well.
I say in the book, and that's how you get in at a club. And this is a cheap shot, not on the laptop, not on the computer, not with the fancy words, out on the training pitch, with the running, with the ball. And that's how I've survived in the game so long, I guess, like, you know. So,
because have you been worried about that? Because I mean, we've talked about it numerous times. The shift in sports science.
Yeah, but I learned to embrace it, to be honest. And then what happened was, once I got to 60 and had those experiences in the Caribbean with that guy, and I changed a lot. I always thought I was a coward because when I was a young player, I was scared to play. Now, I played every game. I didn't phone in sick. You know, I played every game, but it killed me to play, and I was lied awake and I was terrified. So I just assumed I was a effing coward. Yeah? And then one day, something changed my life. I was at the dentist with a Forest player. He was a Spanish guy and speaks good Spanish, like, you know. So he's getting his teeth, and I'm sat in the waiting room, flicking through the magazines and that, like, you know, no car mags, but there's the whatever. And on the back, it said something that changed my life. It said, courage is not the absence of fear, it's the ability to overcome that fear. And in that split second, I thought, no, you're not a coward. You're brave, actually, because you played all them games when you were terrified and that. So it changed my life and my perception. Added on to that experience, those experiences of the Caribbean, I started to feel a lot better about myself. And then when I got to 60, the magic moment arrived. I went back into Everton and somebody goes, how old are you, Baz? I was out running with the players. How old are you, Baz? I said, I'm 60. And for the first time in 43 years, somebody said, you don't look that old. Finally, all them years, 19-year-old, I was 17, veteran's legs, thank you, Sir Bobby, the guy in the lift who was me, all that stuff, the nurses, walking soccer. It all changed around. People said, you don't look 60.
I hope I get this sometime, sometime soon.
Well, you don't look 60. You don't.
I bet the England stuff was good. I know it was part-time, wasn't it? Was it?
It was amazing. And
was it under 17s?
It was under 17s the first few years. And then we did the 19s. We won the Euros twice. And I talk about a lot that experience in Malta and to win the Euros for your country. And I say, was it better than Champions League at Everton? Was it better than the Provisions at Preston? Was it better than getting to the FA Cup final, beating Man Utd on pens at Wembley? It was, because it's your country, it's the lions on your chest and that, like, you know. And when you're on the I used to do all the fitness for duty forms for your Rodwells and your James Vaughan and think, yeah, there you go, done. Email it off and that without even giving a minute's thought about where they were going, what it meant to them, what they were up to and that with the 17s or 19s or 20s, whatever it was. And then when I got in it, you realise how absolutely amazing it is to work for your country. And I'll tell you, wherever you go over Europe, that shirt is the most powerful, most sought-after shirt in the world. And everywhere you go, it makes you so proud to be English and then a part of that, like, you know.
Not mentioning any names, but, you know, obviously at that age, a few young lads earning big money. Any come with a chip on the shoulder?
No, they were fantastic. And, you know, it's really interesting, though, because my first year was the 94s. So we had Raheem Sterling and we had Jordan Pickford and we had Ward Prowse and we had Nathan Redmond. And now I'm starting to struggle. Nick Powell, Tyler Blackett. Now I'm running out of players. So those 40 players we used that year who were the best. And we got to the semis in Novi Sad in Serbia. Holland beat us and went on to win it. We should have won that game probably. But you've named them players now, and now you're struggling. And a lot of those players, I Googled them recently, and there's nothing wrong with playing National League North or South at all. It's a great standard. But a lot of those players who were deemed to be the best of their generation at 16, 17, they've now dropped down to that level, like, you know. And that's the nature of it. That's how competitive football is.
What's the sorry, Chris? What's the? Because in our youth team, we speak about a lot about getting, and we're speaking about it off air about managers in your face. You know, if they're having a shit half, they come in at half time and give people bollockings.
Yeah.
How? Because I know England have been successful the last few years. How was it with the staff there? Was it John Peacock was manager?
Absolutely amazing. Your favourite uncle. Everything's done to. I mean, these men are children because of 16, 17, you know. So it's a very sympathetic approach, as of course it should be. They were amazing with those kids, how they nurtured them. never raised their voices, nothing like that. It was absolutely fantastic.
But from a personal point of view as well, like at the time when you weren't too sure where you were going to go with your career, to go to all them countries, seeing all those sites, countries that you
though.
It did at the time, because I was doing that kind of one-on-one work and the book and that, so it fitted in really nicely. And the thing about England, who gets to go to Sarajevo, who gets to go to Tbilisi, who gets to go to Yerevan? You go into places like that and all of history and stuff like that.
I've got no idea where any of them three.
Okay,
I'll be honest with you.
Well, go through, go through Bolton, keep going through the Far East, Skegness, and then go across Europe, go across the Caspian Sea, and you'll find them all there. So you've got that great experience of travelling as well.
Places that you wouldn't visit.
Who gets to go to Sarajevo and that, and I love history and that, to stand on the spot where essentially the First World War started and that, see all the history, the bullet holes, all the graves and that. Then that juxtaposition of right next door is where Torvill and Dean won the goal with Bolero in the ice rink next door. It's just amazing to think, God, how am I here?
I can't imagine the young lads were taking that in and appreciating it as much.
Well, we had a meeting one day and John Peacock says, right, everybody, well done. And it's gone really well. And we're off tomorrow and everybody's off. And we're going to have a nice down day. So show of hands, we're going by where the most people want to go. So option one, there's the museum to the genocide in 1916, I think it was, I don't want to get this wrong. Allegedly, the Turks massacred 1 million Armenians. There was a new genocide museum. He said, we can either go there, that's pretty new, we can go there. Or number two, about 20 minutes from here, there's the Abbey of, called the Gegrok Abbey, and it's a cave with an abbey built into the cave, where apparently the spear that pierced Christ was for 500 years. One of the Armenia is the oldest Christian country, and you can go to these caves and see where that spear was kept and that. I thought, oh my God, who gets to absorb all that? Option three, we can go down to the Mall. Anyway, 20 minutes later, we're sat having an Armenian cake and a coffee, and the lads, and the lads are
shop.
Yeah, the lads are in Zara and Montserrat. We're sat there, so. But as I say, it is really interesting, and me and Simon Smith, we take the goalies out sometimes when nobody else was training, and in Sarajevo, we took it would have maybe Angus Gunn, I don't know who the goalies were, Angus Gunn and maybe Dean Henderson. Me and Smith take them out and do a load of extra goalkeeping and that, and the ball kept going over or by the side of the goals into the field, and I'd climb over. It's really nice. People are so friendly. There's a guy on the hill, waving away, and I'm waving away, and every time I go over, he's waving away, and I'm waving away, hello, and that, eventually comes running down. He goes, that field's not been cleared for mines.
You would have trusted in getting balls.
It goes back to that, doesn't it? They're fucking expensive, them balls, aren't they? Even when you're in England, them balls are expensive.
If one of them balls bounces on that ball could be lost.
Oh dear. So what was your role at Man United?
It was a kind of, when I went there, they said, find your own way, find where you think you can fit in. It was a kind of mentoring role based on the book and that kind of, and it was, I didn't feel the role. The people there were fantastic. The nicest, it's what a club. I wouldn't, how could you say anything bad? But I weren't feeling that role. And it was really interesting because a lot of new stuff had come into football, and me being a dinosaur, I was kind of rejecting it in those days. I wouldn't so much now, and I'd respect that role, but I didn't feel that role and that. And one day, I was giving the under-14s a talk on how to get the best night's sleep, for God's sake, and I was saying, switch your devices off early.
Did you bring your book in?
No.
Maybe last one at 7 o'clock.
No, we wanted to wake up eventually. And I'm giving the talk and obviously close the curtains and switch on. I'm thinking, for God's sake. And I'm giving the lads a talk and they're and one of their coaches was a famous old Man Utd legend, bringing the class of 92 through. And I caught his eyes and I saw into his eyes, and he's looking back at me, and I know what he's thinking. He's thinking, what the effing hell's this come to? And do you know what? I was thinking it myself. So I just didn't really feel the role. But when I look back now, it's a very valuable role. And I went on the training pitch every day and I joined in. At the start of the season, I'll sit the lads down and say, right, I'm Baz. I've had a career, made a lot of mistakes and suffered a lot with nerves and that. Like, you know, if you want to come and chat and share stuff, come and see me. I'll never mention this again. I went out on the training pitch every day, and sometimes I maybe take the defenders some heading. So I made myself busy out on the training pitch. I went and watched all the lads on loan all over Europe, all over the country. So I kind of found some viability in the role, but I just felt that it's a kind of non-role and that, like, you know. But when I look back now, it wasn't so much. And a couple of players who I see, Michael Keane at Everton, and we talk about them days. I watched him play for Leicester a lot. When he was on loan at Leicester, he said, yeah, it was really good that, like, to have somebody to talk to and stuff. And a couple of lads who I work with are now at Man Utd, like, you know, and they said it was really good that knowing there was somebody there to talk to. So I probably undersold myself and the role. It was probably a bit avant-garde for the time, and I think now most clubs have got somebody doing that role, like, you know. I tell you this incredible story. The book's about fate as well, and all these things happening. So I get a job at Man Utd. We have a player who goes on loan to Birmingham. So I go back to the killing fields of St Andrews, and this lad's, it's incredible. It's incredible. So I'm there 45 years on, 40 years on.
The killing fields.
Yeah. So yeah. And do you know what was worst about that? The worst about getting stick off your hometown is they're your people.
Yeah.
And you know what the fans are like? Well, we pay you money, we'll boo if we want. I say, yeah, but you're my parents. But that's the worst.
Just to add some context, if anybody who's not listened to the first one, obviously played at Birmingham. And
I had a difficult time at Birmingham, my hometown club. All my fault, all my problem, all my perceptions of how massive and everyone looking at you. So I go back to Man Utd, and this player's playing left back that I played. It's unbelievable. And he's not playing well. It was against Blackburn. Gary Bowie, I think, took the team. We talked about it the other day. They were 4-0 down at half-time. The lad got taken off, like, you know. The incredibility, is that a word, of going back all them years later, mentoring a lad in that number 3 shirt who was getting a load of stick. It's unbelievable. At half-time, I went in, some really old guys came up and they went, Mickey Rathbone. And I said, wow. I said, good spot. Yeah, we were just saying what a good player you were. I said, right. I said, I'm the worst player Birmingham have ever had in their career. The worst player. And they went, nah, we were saying should never have sold you in Trevor Francis, like, you know. So the bottom line is there. People don't even, A, they don't know who you are, and B, the ones who do can't remember anything anyway. So I played 450 games. So that's 450 sleepless nights, you know. For what? I can't even remember them. They can't remember them. They think I was a great player. So, and that's what we do, don't we? We bring it all on ourselves and that, and we think everyone's looking at you. And I used to say to the lads who were struggling with it all and that, I'll say, you know, maybe I'd meet a lad from, let's say, Bury, and, oh, God, I'm still under the pressure. I say, right, next time you sit in your car, put Bury's ground on. Bit of a poor choice, Betty, because unfortunately they're not in the league. So put Oldham's ground on, like, you know, turn it to the left and zoom out and see how quite kind of small that ground is in Oldham. Go out again and see how small Oldham is in Greater Manchester. Go out again, see how small, tiny, infinitesimally small that is in the north of England. Go again. England's a tiny, tiny country in Europe. Go again, see how small Europe is in the west. Keep going. Look at the world now and realise that actually, who cares? Who knows who that, like, you know what I mean? And when I was at Everton the first time, and if we had a bad week, and sometimes things don't go well, the old dog would say to me, oh, well, Baz, he goes, at the end of the day, we're just ants crawling around the world. We're all going to die. Who cares? And do you know what?
This is the dog.
Yeah. Yeah, who cares if he dies of that injection I've just given him? No. But, you know, but there was a great truth in what he said. Because at the end of the day, it is just a game. And people don't really want to hear you say that, oh, it's life and death and I can't eat my tea and that. But my lad plays for Rotherham now, and I text him before every game, run and smile. And if he takes you to, well, he's already been at Man U. If he takes you to Barcelona, great. If he takes you to the pub team, great. As long as you run and smile and do your best, who really cares? And you know what? If you play for the pub team, and a lot of the lads I saw who were struggling, the footballers and that, when we came down to it, the option of going out the game, and what if you go out the game? I met a player once, oh, I'm not playing well, I'm really enjoying it, I feel under pressure, the money's on my back, my parents, oh, it's a nightmare, the agent's on my back, oh, it's a nightmare, I can't cope. Right, give them an escape. So you're telling me that if you don't play better in 3 months' time, you're out the game. And where will you go from there? He said a non-league team. And what'll happen there? Because, well, it's good there'll be 500 on there, and the owner gets you a job in his factory and that. I said, well, the thing that you're terrified about doesn't actually sound that bad. All the pressure's gone. You're still playing and earning £300 or £400 a week, would it be? Yeah. And you've got a nice, easy job as well. So the thing that you're terrified of is not that terrifying. And when you give them that kind of exit, all of a sudden, yeah, you know what? It's not that bad because actually I can get out. There is life beyond it. But when you're in it, you can't see anything other than the game. I didn't play well. Oh, my God, all the people are pointing at me, which they're not. We've ascertained that, haven't we? So I think it really helped in that way. And I think when I was a young player, I really would have benefited from that,
Obviously, you were at... Sorry, mate.
I was just going to say, a lot of the fair few jobs that you went into, Wigan and Blackpool, it was going into a struggling club, not just a struggling team, a struggling club, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really difficult. And I've been really lucky because I was always with winning teams and that. And I went in there kind of late on for short periods of time only because of the England work. And you saw the other side of the coin. And I say in the book, a losing team stinks and a winning team smells great, and you soon smell that. And it's like nobody's fault, really. It's often expectations, new managers, changing managers. I don't want him, I want them six. You don't train with us, in, out, and all that kind of stuff, And I saw that at Wigan, and I saw it at Blackpool and that. And the managers we're only human, aren't we? The managers, Warren Joyce was then, Graham Batter took over, and it was Clark, who was really good, and Tomo, you'll know Tomo as well. Good guys doing their best. Couldn't get results, and 5 at the back, 4 at the back, 3 at the back. Run them, don't run them. Days off, no days off. Shout at them, don't shout at them. Lads on load, young lads in, trying everything. But unfortunately, not really been able to turn it round because the team weren't just quite good enough. And that's no disgrace. It's really interesting because the narrative has to be, you're at the bottom, so you're shit, and you don't care, and you don't try. But I was there, and we did care, and we weren't shit, and we just weren't quite as strong as other teams. But that always becomes a narrative, doesn't it? And I saw that at those two clubs, and you know yourself, we've all lost in the last kick of the game. And I'm telling you, we all know it. There's nothing as bad as that feeling, is there? And you feel sick, and they're all jumping in front of you, their dugout and celebrating and that, and you feel sick, and you want to grab them, you want to punch them, and the feeling won't go away for it's 3 days of this now. And I experienced that on those two occasions.
Could you tell us about when it kicked off at Blackpool?
It was incredible. Do you know what, mate? It was the most frightening thing I've ever seen in my life in football. And I've been around. I've been on the end of some rollickings, and we were playing Middlesbrough at home. The pitch was terrible, and it was really funny. Ita Cranker, I worked with later at Forest. He was the manager of Middlesbrough. And we weren't expected to win. They were top, we were bottom, and it was a Tuesday night. The pitch was terrible, Anyway, they were winning 1-0. We got a goal back late on, I think. We think we're going to get something out of the game here, And then with a minute to go, as is always the case, ball in, looping header, I think, or I don't know what it was, over Joe, the keeper, and in the net and that, and that's it again. 93rd minute, they're all going mad next to us. Fair enough, probably overdoing it, but. They were euphoric, and that feeling of the knife and that sickness and that dread. And we got back in the dressing room, and I told this story because you shouldn't really talk about the dressing room, but I felt that because the narrative is that you don't care, you're shit, you don't care about the fans. I thought I would tell this story, and it all kicked off. And Jamie O'Hara had been brilliant for us. He'd done everything. He'd played with a bad ankle for games. He'd been our best player. And he started having a go at the goalie about him being sloppy, cost us the game. It's raw. This is effing visceral. This ain't like 3 days later, you couldn't, but this is absolute raw. This is a valuable point gone to nothing, and it kicked off, and he's shouting back, and then Clarkey gets involved, and people were taking sides, and I've never seen it where the whole thing nearly kicked off. It went beyond a scuffle. People were taking sides, and it was horrible, and I was quite scared and that, but in the midst of it, something really funny happened, and Joe Lewis is a great guy. He's doing really well in Scotland now, and he's a mild-mannered guy, But his blood was up and the gloves were off, like metaphorically. He was a goalkeeper, like, you know. And like, you know,
should have fucking left him on him.
yeah. But you know, like when you're in a hurry, could never been in one, but I've read about them. The winds go through and destroy everything. Then you're in the eye, and then there's that like silence, that calm for a minute. But you know the wind's coming again, like the other side of the thing. And then it went really quiet, and Clarkey was there, like, you know,
At Joe.
Yeah, at Joe, and Joe was sat there, but Joe's blood was up. Joe's a fantastic guy, and Joe, I'll spell that, I won't swear, like, but Joe Clarkey was like holding himself back, you know, and it was horrific. But the winds had abated. It was in that like eye of the storm and that. And Joe goes to Clarkey. He goes, "You are a effing cunt." And Clarkey just like stood there, glaring at him, like, you know, didn't bat an eyelid. And then Joe goes, "You are a piece of shit." Yeah. And again, Clarkey, just there. "You are, I don't know, a horrible," I can't remember what it was, horrible piece of crud. You know what I mean? Clarkey didn't bat an eyelid. And then Joe goes, "You are an amateur." He goes, "Amateur! And I burst out laughing. So, yeah, piece of shit, yeah, all day long, yeah. Effing cunt. Yeah, I'm having that, like, you know. Worst human being on the planet? Yeah, why not? Amateur. Then it kicked off again, and they had to be separated. And I'll tell you what, honestly, I tell the story. Lee Clark was brilliant. They were great. Jamie Harder, Joe, they were such good guys. But I'm telling the fans, that's what it's like. So when you think players don't give a shit, it's not like that. It's not. We want to do well for ourselves, but we want to do well for the fans and the manager and that, like, you know. And that was the worst I've ever seen in 45 years in a dressing room. And there was a couple of minutes where I thought, this is getting out of hand, and people separated. The whole thing nearly kicked off, and that, like, you know, it stopped and kind of peace was restored of a kind. And the next day we all came in at a meeting, and Lee Clark was brilliant. He brought it all back with a little bit of self-deprecating humour and some very wise words and that, like, you know. And they did it brilliantly, him and Tomo. They brought everybody back on side, because I drove home that night and I was shaking, honestly. It was frightening, like, you know. I've never seen anything like that, where it nearly, the whole thing imploded and that. But the next day, Clarkey was fantastic. And he asked all the players one by one, what's the problem? And little Perkins, David Perkins, he played with Oliver. He's a great guy. He was at Wigan with me as well, and that, like, you know. And the man said to him, "Perks, come on, you've been around. You're very highly respected in the dressing room and that. What do you think?" And Perks just said, "At the end of the day, we're just not quite good enough." And you know what? That was it. We tried. We prepared. We watched. We trained. We worked on their shape. We watched analysis. You know, we went to bed early. We had pre-match meal. We warmed up properly. At the end of the day, you know, like, I don't think anyone's saying that, you know, the Norwich manager or they're bad people. No one's saying Sean Dyche is a bad man for sure, but Sean Dyche hasn't quite, with respect, got as strong a team as Pep Guardiola's got. So he's living down there, isn't he? Although he's had amazing success. And that's the reality of the situation. But sometimes I think people don't want to hear that. They're shit, they don't care. Disgrace a lot of you don't care.
I think that's exactly it. I know you said it's probably the worst thing you've ever seen in football, but Clarkey's probably gone away that night and thought, I've enjoyed that. You know, at least they're giving a bit. You know, they're not just sat there like, another loss.
They care. And as I say, it was kind of the perfect storm, and it had been brewing, it had been coming, and the defeat and that sick feeling. And just the way it came, I talk about the waves out to sea. Every now and again, just a sequence of events that form as a 100-foot wave and that, like, you know. And that night on that pitch in the dark, and it was an element of them over-celebrating. It was an element of we didn't expect anything out of the game. They're top of the league. We nearly got a point. It was an element of the weather was terrible all week in training, and it was just everything came together that night and produced that. But as I say, nobody's fault, no one to blame. People who cared too much in a way, because if you don't care, you don't have that, do you?
You can take that, can't you?
Absolutely.
The analogy there is, as long as everybody cares, but we just weren't quite good enough.
Yeah, as I say, you know, you don't get that if people don't care.
Did you have John Joe Kenny in them youth teams?
Yeah, I've got great memories of John Joe. And of course, when I went back to Everton, I've seen him a lot. He was, everything to be admired in a young player. In fact, funnily enough, before we won the Euros in Malta, I can't remember, it was about 5 or 6 years ago, we had an England training camp. We played Belgium at St George's Park in probably the March. And he was playing right in front of the dugout. He went up for a ball, landed awkwardly, crack. And I ran on 2 yards from him. He's lying on his back, and obviously he's broken his collarbone, And he looked up at me and he gritted his teeth and he goes, "Baz, lad, you's better get me fit for that fine than summer, lad." And I said to him, "You'll score the winning goal." And do you know what? He scored the winning goal from the penalty spot. Yeah. And that team that won the Euros had some really good players in, Joe Gomez captained it, and we had Adam Armstrong and Solanke and Josh Onomer and Patrick Roberts and Lewis Cook, and forgive me if I've missed some players out, and that we had a terrific, they called it like a 10-year high, a 10-year good team, and they won the World Cup, I think a year or two later, and we won it on penalties over there. And as I said before, that was the most amazing experience because you're doing it for your country, and back at the
being
hotel.
part of that.
Oh, it was amazing.
Fill you with pride.
Oh, it was amazing, and, the final whistle goes, and obviously on loop, it's "We are the champions, we are the champions," and back to the hotel, champagne for the staff.
I was about to ask that. What does if you're in the under-17s, how do the lads celebrate? Just
milk.
Fuck it, we'll stop up till 4 on PlayStation.
No, there's that. What's it called? That drink that's that they drink it in Malta. It's like a Coca-Cola flat stuff. Begins with M. It was them for the lads anyway, but champagne. It was amazing. You know what? Really emotional. And when we got off the bus and went in, it was a big hotel and called the Seacrest in Melilla Bay, and there were mainly British holidaymakers in there. And when we walked in there after the game, everybody stood and started clapping, and I'll tell you, it brings the tears to your eyes and that. One of the best memories of that trip. It's really funny because only 8 get to the finals, 7 plus the host, and I felt our name was on that. And when I looked at the groups, obviously Malta are one of the 8. I looked at the groups and we were drawn in the 4 with Malta. Match day 1, Malta. Now, you should beat Malta. So you're going into your second game against Turkey, commanding the group. Germany were favourites in that. And as I say, Germany always have an extra boss, more staff, nice tracksuits, just loads of stuff. And there is something about Germans who, it's an amazing country, we've all been there, amazing footballers, sports people, but there is a little bit of something that rubs us up the wrong way, isn't it? I don't know what it is, but they got knocked out by Scotland. It was unbelievable. Scotty Gemmell managing Scotland, ex-Everton, and they knocked him out. And I'll never forget this. The next morning, they left, obviously, 8 teams become 4 in the hotel, 4 teams become 2 in the hotel as the tournament commences. And the day that Germany left in their 2 team buses with all their gear.
So you all stop in the same hotel?
Oh, yeah, you stay in the same hotel, right. Yeah. So it's all a bit odd, awkward, almost But that day I was out on my mobile phone and the Germans left. And I'll never forget, so long as I live, it was like a English/British typical, holiday hotel, And as a German coach pulled away, there were dozens and dozens of Brits, all sunburned backs and Union Jack shorts, out in the road, giving them the V's. Brownie.
Fuck off.
Brownie. Grown-ups, toddlers, grandparents, all fantastically involved in the giving it that. Oh my God, I'm telling you, that is one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life, mate. Unbelievable, mate. God.
Oh dear.
Just jumping back a little bit, just back to Man United, because obviously you entering the club that is Man United during that massive transit, because Sir Alex would have been there in
absolutely,
year, and you were there for that period, the old transition, and everything. I mean, for David Moyes, I imagine. Did you think it were like a poison chalice at the time? Following,
looking back, but it's really interesting. All through my life, it always seems to be everywhere I am, things are happening and that. So I went into Man United for Ferguson's last 5 months, and then Dave came in. And then obviously Van Gaal came in the year later, So I experienced in those, I was only there 2 years, all that change and that. And it was really interesting because we've seen it all with AC Milan and we've seen it with Barcelona now. These unbeatable dynasties, it does end eventually. And whoever came in after Ferguson, I believe would have, I don't even want to say David failed. It was a period of transition, so I'm not saying he failed, would have found it difficult whoever would have came in, like, you know. And I believe if Dave would have given another year, things would have been okay and he would have turned it round. But I say it was almost that it had to be that way. There had to be that kind of period of grieving after, nearly 30 years of Ferguson and that, like, you know. And as I say, I saw Dave and he did everything the same and picked similar players and stuff, and nothing really happened different. It was just that dynasty was in, like the Romans and all the great dynasties, it went into decline, and it's very hard to turn. They're still finding it hard now, aren't they? Like, you know, they had their glory 20 years, didn't they? And now it's maybe somebody else's now. They'll get back there eventually, won't they? But it's not going to be easy. It takes time to turn it round.
How impressive was he, Sir Alex?
Oh, unbelievable. You know, on that first day when I'd nutmegged Jesse McCade across the box, won the run, on the way in, I'm going in, and Sir Alex is holding the door, and he goes, Mick, come in, Mick, come in. He holds the door for me, like, you know, and he's with Tony Strudwick, who's a good friend of mine, who's an amazing fitness coach. He goes, Mick, I was just telling Strutters about how you slaughter fitness coach in your first book, which I don't. I don't. But I thought to myself, oh my God, he's taken the trouble to flick through that book. And I was saying the book, he's the most amazing guy I've ever met. And you know that, he knows everybody. I thought, oh yeah, well, he don't. But he did. He knew everybody's name. Everybody who was at Carrington, he knew their names. And I just assumed he'd be a miserable bugger who shouted at everybody. He weren't. He could not have been anything other than what I perceived him to be. He was always charming, smiling. He could hold court, or he could sit back and listen. He had an incredible knowledge of, he was telling me one day about the coffee machine and that. Amazing guy. I was getting a cup of coffee. He goes, hey, it costs a lot of money. You know why? But, you know, and when you think back, when you think back, it had to be that way. You couldn't rule by fear and be a miserable bug and have that success. You had to have that sophistication and highly intelligent guy, and so personable, so likeable, so utterly charming and that, like, you know. And it was really funny because when I went to Wigan with Warren, and I was worried about my age and that, like, you know, Warren goes, oh, Sir Alex is coming in today, like, you know. And I thought, oh, I hope he remembers me, like, you know. And I went in, Sir Alex was there, and he goes, hi, how you doing, Mick? I said, all right. He goes, I can't believe you're still working at your bloody age. Well, I thought, well, at least he remembered me. Like, you know. So we'll call that a draw.
How did you find Van Gaal?
Aloof, distant. Yeah. Aloof's probably a bad word. He's not going to want to take me for coffee. Is he, like the under-21s mentor? You know, but it was okay. Staff were very nice. They were really nice, you know. But he brought in, I was MR, and he brought in a guy called Marcus Rakers, I think. I think he's the guy at Arsenal now. So when I got back to pre-season after the Euros and that, and when I've been away and we won that trophy, I felt really important because I had a defined role. And then going back there, slipping into that ill-defined role, I felt quite low about it. And then when I got my top, I was M.R. And then I thought, oh, God. And then they were bringing another physio in for the first team called Matt Ratcliffe.
Oh, no.
I thought,
not two dots.
M.R.
M.R.
Yeah. So,
it's like a fucking Google thing, isn't it? Put his email address on there.
Yeah, I know. So, but then Van Gaal said, look, you know, and it was more aimed at a couple of the senior staff work with the first team. And Van Gaal kind of said, look, if you either work for Man Utd or England and that, like, so we had a kind of ultimatum. And I wanted to stay with the physio. I wanted to stay with England and that. So it allowed me a quite easy out, and I left, and that was it. And I drove out after 2 years, and I drove through the barrier, the exit and that, and the guy said, yeah, see you later, and went back to his crossword. And that was probably a metaphor for my time there, like, you know. But I say it's the most incredible club, and the people are really nice. And that the problem was my perception of it, that's for sure.
Do you think before, like, giving you that ultimatum, do you think that before Man United saw the benefits of you being at England and Man United?
They did before, because Warren would say to me, we always had Man U lads in the squad as well, and Warren would say to me, oh, carry on doing your England work, because you keep an eye on what's there, what's around and stuff. Like, you see, like a young Dele Alli who I recommended, and that he was a MK Dons player then. So you see those, and Warren say to me, keep doing it, see what's coming through. Plus, there's always 2 or 3 Man United lads in it. So I kind of got the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And I say, Man, you were great with me, and I went around Europe looking after players and all around the UK and that. But you know what? If you're not feeling the role, and I guess it goes back to your childhood and being valued and appreciated, and I guess wanting to be told, well done, well done, well done. You know, I didn't really have that, and maybe I needed that, like, you know.
Because I wanted to talk about the Montserrat experience, but I mean, there was quite a few clubs leading up to that. Where would you say you enjoyed the most?
I've loved them all. I've always been proud to wear the shirt. It sounds a bit like naff, that, doesn't it? Like, you know, and I've always tried. I'm working at, I nearly said Bradford again, Jesus. I'm working at Salford now.
No wonder it takes us long to get to work, man. Bloody hell, Salford! Leeds! Oh, for fuck's sake, I've done it again.
That's probably why it is. But I've worked for all the clubs, and you know, people love that. I was surprised when I went to Blackpool, because I'm conditioned as a Preston player, physio, to believe it's a crap club, crap fans and that. But when you get there, that club means the world to those supporters. So I cherish that, and I worked at Crawley for a week or so, and I always give my best, and I'm working at Salford now. I really like it. I really like the players. I'm not ashamed of wearing Salford kit. You know, I've had MR on M.R. on Man Utd gear. I've had MR on Everton gear. I've had it on international gear. I've had it on Crawley gear. I've had it on Preston gear in the bottom division and the Championship, and I've had it on I've got it on Salford gear now, and I'm equally proud for all the clubs, because all clubs are part of the 92, and they're all great environments to be in. So I like them all. It sounds a bit twee, that, doesn't it? I've enjoyed every aspect in that, and I always try and do my best for all the clubs and that, you know.
Baz, how on earth did you end up in Montserrat?
Well, Danny Donachie phoned me up, like, you know, and he said, Baz, he goes, my dad's got a job somewhere in the Caribbean. He goes, he's going to need some help, like, you know. So
I think you were just about getting it before we did the last one, were it?
Yeah.
You were just kicking off.
Yeah. Well, I met Willie, and we become very close friends and that, like, you know, and he told me it was Montserrat, and I knew all about Montserrat, about the volcano and stuff, like, you know, and I said I could do the 4 trips. There's 4 international breaks, and I would do the 4 trips with him. And I went. It was the most amazing experience. He's the most amazing guy. He taught me a lot about myself and about life. And for me, without going over the top, it was that second trip where we beat Belize 1-0, and the day after, and the walk to the volcano. That was my road to Damascus. And I spent a lot of time just listening and talking, or comfortable silences, and walking all around the island, really hilly. We walked miles together and that, like, you know. And one day he just said to me, stop, stand still, listen. And I thought, wow, wasn't that the 3 degrees from the 70s? And he goes, what can you hear? I said, nothing. He goes, well, listen harder. Listen harder. What? Listen harder. So I listened. All of a sudden, I can hear the waves and the sea, and there's a dog barking, and he's at a shutter blowing too, and you can actually hear the rust of the leaves and that. So I told him that. He goes, yeah, good. Listen harder. So I listened harder, and then you become aware of your breath and your own heartbeat and that. And I say in the book, Jesus, that was some weird shit, like, you know. And then we just walked off and that, like, you know. And that time I spent with him changed me a lot. If you can change in 4 trips and that, you know. And the people on the island, it's all so laid back. So the guy used to bring the minibus for the players. We walked everywhere. The guy brought the minibus, like, you know. He was late. I said, you're late. He goes, oh man. He goes, you early? And he smiled and that. Yeah. Well, the game just kicked off, by the way. So if that's early, all the best, mate. So, but then after a while, you get seduced by it. So we've trained in the morning, like, and the ladies are making the food. It's amazing. And I said, oh, food, 5 minutes late, 5 minutes late. He goes, the food cooking, the food will come, you know. Just sit on the grass, enjoy the sunshine. We bring and after a while, you get seduced by it, and you realise that it's us rushing round and that, you know.
The rat race.
And he wasn't late. We said beer at 9 o'clock. He come at 10 past, big deal. We train at 10, or train at 10 past, train at 11. It's like paradise, like, you know. So you do become kind of seduced by that lifestyle and the calmness of life and stuff, like, you know. And the guys who went over there, British subjects from Montserrat, parents or grandparents, mainly playing like National League, South mainly, 1 Pro. They've got more now, like, you know. And they were so proud to play for nothing. And I saw that altruism that I'd forgot existed, because I've been in the Premier League where it's all about the money, obviously, you know, that's how it is there, like, you know. But this was different. These guys were working and driving trains and working in shops and that, and still giving up. They got reimbursed their wage, but they're not getting paid for playing and that, like, you know. And they all turned up, and they had their passports, didn't have to chase them around and that, because that these were men who had jobs and that they could get on the plane without me picking them up and putting them on and that like, you know.
what were the, just to give some context to the challenge that was afoot? Like, what's the population? 5, 6, 7,000?
5,000. There were more on, but the volcano destroyed half the island and that. So
what are the expectations put on you to take over this national team?
Well, they were bottom ranked at the time. They hadn't won for 3 years and that, like, you know. And I kept saying to Willie, I think we'll win all games. I thought, oh, God. So I'm trying to,
what kind of level are you playing? Some of the other islands? Or
So the first game was against El Salvador, 6 million people, soccer mad. So the lads and Willie are talking about clean sweep 4 wins. So I'm trying to give Willie some, like, I say, Willie, like, you know, can we get real about this? Like, you know, if we couldn't get beat by fewer than 10 in the first game, and then Belize 2 million people, soccer mad, if we can hold them to 6 in the second game, the game's supposed to get easier in the groupings. Third game, Curacao, big island, some good Dutch type players because it's a kind of Dutch colony. If we can maybe get a draw there, and then Grand Cayman we might edge a win. Oh no, I think we win all the games like that. So I'm thinking, wow, this guy's deluded, like, you know. But you know what, the lads, it was incredible. The lads were fantastic. So we got it's so hard to get there. It's me and Willie drive to Heathrow through the night. Then it's like 11 hours to Miami. Then it's Miami to Antigua. Then it's a catamaran chopping across the waters, like, you know, it's unbelievable. We get on the plane. I'm sat with the players, like, you know, and the drinks trolley comes rattling down, like, you know. I'm thinking, oh no, if this was a Premier League team or Everton, if that trolley would have come within 100 yards of a player, that person would have been, oh, don't you dare. If that would have been Dave or any of the managers, how dare you? They're not having, you know, would have been like 14 orange juices anyway. So the lady comes up with the trolley and she goes, would you like a drink for the flight, sir? I said, yeah, I'll have a Coke. So I got a Coke. She asked the lad next to me, would you like a drink? He goes, yeah, I'll have 2 beers and a double Jack Daniels and Coke. The next lad piled into the vodka. He's had the whiskey as well. He's got 3 bottles of wine under his bloody seat. And the lad turns to me and he goes, don't you drink, Baz? I thought, right, I'm getting pissed on the way back. But you know, the whole point of it, the whole point of that story was they had their couple of drinks, slept on the flight. They didn't get pissed. They didn't abuse. They didn't fall off the plane at the far end. They're men. They behave like men. They're here to win. They're here to do a job. And while we were there, the whole thing was about the experience and enjoying. Because I thought we were going to lose all the games, but it was. We wanted it to be a magical experience in magical places, and it turned out to be that. And that second game, we lost the first game in the 95th minute, 2-1 against El Salvador.
The one that you're taking 10.
Yeah, we were winning. They got 2 late goals. We were out on our feet because the lads have been driving trains and working in shops today before, and we had like a 2-day trip to get there. Like, you know, the second game a month later, we beat Belize, and there was like I don't know, 1,000 people at the game, and the drums. You can imagine the perfect night and that, you know. And me and Willie sloped away, like, you know, there was a little shack, like, you know, and obviously Willie's a Buddhist, like, you know, and there was a little lady there, open all night, and she gave us the beers, and we sat there, and there was a goat and a chicken, and the goat was like sat on Willie's head, like, and I say in the book, he probably knew from previous life, like, you know, and we sat there in that perfect night, in that perfect quiet, and a mile away, the lads still in there kitting out on the pitch and that, like, drinking and celebrating, all the fans and the drums and that, like, you know, and the barbecue. And my God, those lads deserve that, because most of them lads had started at big clubs and slipped down. But, you know, okay, technically slipped down and that, but not through lack of desire. Just maybe not quite good enough on that. But they'd all hung on in there and they'd stayed and they'd played. And every dog has his day. And that day on the pitch with the drums and the barbecue and the beers and shoulder high they were carried by the fans, that was their day. So they deserve that.
So do you know to pick your Montserrat squad? Is it basically just anybody who plays football in England?
Yes, it was. It's been fine-tuned now. Willie's taken it on for 2 years now. And actually, a couple of lads from Salford can play for it. And Willie's done great. He's unearthed a lot of players who are third-generation Montserratians. And the team now is actually probably all professional. Lyle Taylor. Yeah. He came on 3 ships. He was amazing because he was a pro at Charlton. And it is a lot of travelling, a lot of stuff and that, like, you know, to play in front of like 1,000 people, 1,500 people on AstroTurf, a lot of the games and that, like. But
was that your job to kind of persuade these lads, sell them to come
Willie's
and
job,
play?
and obviously as we got the fame and that, and we won the games and got more press and publicity, and the goals on loop in the CONCACAF, and I didn't realise there's 42 countries in CONCACAF. I thought it was Mexico and Jamaica and 3 others, but it's not. There's 41 countries. It's really thriving when you get over there, and it does mean the world. And all the Antigua's got a good team. Aruba, Bonaire, Cuba, they've all got teams and that who play, and then it means a lot to those teams. When we're over here, we don't really get it. We don't really realise. But when you're over there, it is a big deal. CONCACAF.
There's a movie in that, in there.
Yeah, 100%.
The Mad Buddies coach.
Yeah,
Like, he's
yeah,
like to make a bobsleigh team, isn't it?
One of the goat from real
but
life.
It was an amazing experience. And again, we didn't, say to the players, you must be in your bed, you must not drink. We just said, look, lads, do what you want to do. But they were hard on each other. They policed each other ruthlessly. And half time in every game, they were effing and blinding at each other. Me and Willie could go in and that, because they wouldn't accept second best. And like the modern players will kind of sit there quietly, please, let's get changed and go home. These lads were vicious and voracious, and they policed each other and they monitored each other. And on the day of the first game, I said, right, lads, it's warm, get back to your hotels, air conditioning on. They didn't go back to, pros are like the comatose with fear lying in the bed, if we lose tonight. And these lads didn't have those fears. So they went out swimming, and me and Willie went for a walk, and a couple of them having a coffee and walking. If I'd seen a few lads with a beer, no big deal, not a problem. Because the other lads wouldn't let them get away with that anyway. So it was a really incredible experience in terms of seeing that other side of football. People just determined to, I'm not saying pros aren't determined to play, but of course they are. But when you take the money out of it, you take a lot of the pressure away, and you bring in the experience of playing for the shirt and that. And it taught me a lot about football, because I come conditioned to believe that, you get paid that much and it's all about money. And if you get moved to a better club, you get for more money. And that is essentially how it is in professional sport. That's just the way it is. But these guys weren't like that. These guys, and we had an incredible situation whereby Willie had let them all kind of help picking the team, and he picked the team one day, and they went, look, we think he should play, and instead of him, and him who would have been out went, yeah, you're right, he should be instead of me.
I've only come for a fucking holiday.
I wanted to say it in the 70s, when I was a player, what, I actually leave me out, so I'll put him in. But you can't when you're a pro, can you? And we saw that, and it was incredible. And everybody was determined not to be the weakest link, and it was just amazing. The whole thing, put the whole, thing into perspective.
Yeah, because I suppose from a fan's perspective, people get disillusioned with the money around the game. And but I suppose these lads are playing just for the opportunity. To play, because they've no chance of playing international football.
No.
So the opportunity to just play international football and be part of it and experience it. That's the reason that they're
Absolutely.
there.
Plus, I'm sure it's a very nice country as well.
Yeah,
so
I'm sure it is bloody lovely.
It's an amazing country.
How is it funded? Because I'm sure...
I'm assuming CONCACAF or more likely FIFA must fund it, because, notwithstanding the fact the lads don't get paid, they were reimbursed for lost wages. And we only took 14 players, only me and Willie's staff. But that's 16 transatlantic flights. That's 16 times 5 nights in the hotel in Montserrat. So it's still tens of thousands of pounds, So
are you getting paid the same?
Well, it was really interesting, because Willie said to me, it's 1,000. Now, I didn't know if that was 1,000 quid, pineapples, but I would... But I weren't bothered, because I was there for experience and that, Having said that, I got over there and I found that the local currency is East Caribbean dollars. 1,000 of them is about 80 quid, and I'd already bought seasickness tablets, 40 quid, so I was already down on it, but I found out it was just US dollars. So actually $1,000 was like 900 quid. And it paid for the expenses, but it was not about the money, unlike Smell of Football too, obviously. Which I've sort of changed my mind now. It's wholly about the money. So
it took an hour and 40 minutes.
I did get there, yeah. But it was an incredible experience, and it changed. I don't want to say it changed my life, but it made me see things very, very differently than what I previously had when your head's down in the professional game.
So, as well as that, is it your everyday life? Like, you worry about getting old, you worry about pressures of work. Did that?
That went. As I say, that went. And I went back into Everton. And I always had this thing about getting to 60. And I got back and a phone call, come back to Everton. I'll start tomorrow. It's my 60th birthday today. I'm back. Absolutely incredible. And I went back in and said, how are you, Baz? I said, I'm 60. You don't look 60. It was like magical, the whole thing. And it seemed the whole journey through the book, I kept saying, this is more than just coincidence. This is part of something. And when I got to the end, I thought, wow, this has kind of joined up the loop and that. So it turned out to be amazing, really, the whole thing.
Talking of fear, what was the crack with the paper shop that you spoke about in the first one?
Do you know what? Some things can't be coincidence. So when the book came out at first, it got amazing reviews. I was so grateful, and people wrote great reports about it in all the press and that, like, you know. But the guys in London said to me, you may get a bad review from a book called When Saturday Comes. And people entitled to opinion, you know, and if you go on and Google the Burj Al Arab 7-star hotel, there'll be all 5-star reviews. Somebody put a 1-star in somewhere. You know what I mean?
There's always
like,
one twat in there.
Yeah. So, but this is incredible, right? So I live in Blackburn. And one day I had to do a thing in BR&B in Birmingham about my book and that, like, because of the Birmingham City link and that. So I drove down and that. And on the way out, I was driving through Solent, where I was born. And the guy phoned me up, he goes, Baz, don't be upset about this, but When Saturday Comes, I've wrote an indifferent review. So I was devastated, stopped, fell on the floor crying, shaking my fist in fury and rage and disappointment. I thought, I've got to buy that magazine so I can self-flagellate, read it and feel the pain, like, you know. Incredibly, the newsagent where I'd stopped was the same newsagent that provided me as a teenager with my 5s in the Sunday People back in the 70s. So what are the chances of that? Absolutely incredible, like, you know. So I went in there, I got the magazine. It was you know, it said it was a reason, but nothing special. Don't get carried away too late for that, like, you know. But, you know, I took it badly. You know, I probably shouldn't have done, you know. I sat down and thought, you know what, there's been loads of 5-star reviews. You're going to get 1 3-star review and that, like, you know. So, which bridge shall I jump off, like, you know?
But you were smack outside where you used to get your paper from.
Incredible. And I live in Blackburn, and that was in Sheldon in Birmingham. Unbelievable. Yeah.
Sliding doors moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a sliding doors moment, yeah.
Well, I know you've read the new book, and I've read it. It's due back tomorrow.
And I'll be reading that exact same book very shortly. Do you want to?
Thank you.
I'll pass it on, Matty.
But no, 5-star review from me. It's, we've had a few people who've had books out, but no, it's brilliant.
Well, thank you very
I
much.
I'll
encourage anyone to
be
want to get
honest
it.
with you, but if I get back in time, it could actually be a Christmas present for my dad as well.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. Absolutely, thank you.
Who changed your mind on sports science?
The guys at Nottingham Forest, they were brilliant, and I saw it done well. I saw it done with a soft touch. I saw it done with a less is more approach. Seeing that each player's individual and they're not all the same and that, like, you know. So I saw it done really, really well. And I saw the guy at Rochdale take my lad, work him, get him fitter and quicker and stronger, and transform him into quite a smallish late development into a really quick, strong player. So I saw it done on a couple of levels. Fantastic one. I thought, yeah, I'm having this now, like, you know, so.
Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Well, I've really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I've really
Really
enjoyed it,
appreciate
you know.
Really appreciate it. And we'll have the link in the description.
Well, thank you
so
very
if anybody
much,
wants
guys.
to get the book,
Well,
you can
that's-
jump
yeah.
straight on it.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Get some more envelopes in.
Yeah. But I can't wait to.
Bit of luck, so we might buy you a brick stick for Christmas. Look at that.
Yeah. Poor wife with her chapped lips.
Brilliant, mate.
Great
Thanks
stuff.
a lot.
Thank you for inviting me on.
Thank you.
Cheers. Absolutely.